Welcome back, my dear viewers, to the second part of how to play Skank Beads. This video will cover some of the more complex variations as well as tips on how to approach them. Make sure you watch the first part, link in the description, if you haven't seen it yet. The D beat and its variations. I'd like to start this video with the introduction and analysis of the so-called D beat. The reason I want to talk about this rather not very fascinating and interesting Skank beat variation is that I haven't seen anyone doing it so far. Let's recall what the D beat is. As some of you might know, it was invented by punk bands a very long time ago when drummers tried to play a skank beat kind of thing with their hands, just hitting the bass drum as fast as they could. Recall the blast beat, same story. Originally, the D beat at high tempos has probably sounded like this. As you see, the kick pattern was hardly recognizable in comparison to what it looks like today. It is nearly impossible to play it perfectly on spot since at crazy fast tempos the interval between the bass drum hits kind of blurs into what may sound like triplets. Let's say this is a cheap version to play a D beat at fast tempos. An even simpler way to do it is to follow the kick pattern with your cymbal. It is much easier to pull off endurance-wise, but pretty hard to get that snare on spot. Usually drummers would play a really loud and noisy cymbal with this D beat type to make the triplet cymbal look or sound like their actual eighth notes. Learning approach. It is relatively not hard to master the D beat kick pattern. Just start very slowly and make sure your bass drum is on the grid. If you're very impatient and you want to play fast right away, then you should try the simplified D beat first. It is the same skank beat, but with one bass drum hit less. It is really unpractical to play the D beat with a fourth note cymbal on the downbeat, since the second cymbal hit is right between the two bass drum hits. So rather start with the fourth note cymbal on the upbeat, in unison with the snare. If you prefer to follow the kick pattern with your cymbal, a really helpful thing to do is to accent every first bass drum hit with the bell of a ride, for example. Skank beat with metal kick pattern. It is highly recommendable to start playing these with a double pedal or two single pedals. Originally it was played with one foot, but it's ridiculously hard to pull it off at high tempos. For this task, a so-called slide technique can be applied, which is not going to be covered in this video, so I'll just show it briefly. The reason it's really hard to play this skank beat with one foot is that you cannot just start slow and work your way up, since the slide technique requires a different approach in groups of muscles. Playing this type of skank beat with 2 feet is a piece of cake. Skank beat with 16th note double bass. These are mostly used in metal music. No need to say that this type of skank beat requires you to have decent double bass skills in the first place, but there are other challenges you might encounter. Limb independence can be a real pain here, so consider some of the following exercises to improve your coordination. You might start messing up your snare and cymbal if you switch from single bass drum hits to double bass while playing a skank beat, so make sure you practice the transition between these patterns. play a constant 16th note double bass line in a skank upbeat, it is the hardest to play 8th notes with your cymbal. You can just start with the cymbal and bass drum and add the snare later. If you recall the whipping motion I mentioned in the first part, it can be really helpful in this case too. Limb independence in skank beats. This is an important topic. It is useful not only for being creative with your leading hand accenting different cymbals during a skank beat like this, but it's also useful to save energy. At very fast tempo, skipping even a single note might save your gig, so to say. I have talked about this topic in the advanced part of my blast beat tutorial. The concept here is absolutely the same. You can skip either a snare or cymbal hit at the start or end of a skank beat. Here's what it looks like. These things are essential when it comes to holding a skank or blast beat for a ridiculously long time period. If you insist on playing 8th notes with your leading hand all the time, you can relax it by playing combinations of 4th and 8th notes. Furthermore, if you do that on a relatively noisy cymbal, your cheating will be less noticeable. Epilogue. Skank beats are as important in extreme music genres as blast beats. As I've said before, they're basically halftime blast beats in some way. The blast beat has a more intense sound overall and can be considered as the drummer's private solo time. The skank beat is more of a supporting pattern that highlights the speed of a fast part of a song much better than a blast beat. I hope you enjoyed these videos and found them useful. Although the skank beat is very simple, you could see that one can be very creative using the skank beat at its full potential. Don't forget to like and share this video, and most importantly, subscribe to my channel for more videos. I hope to see you next time. Eugene, out. Psst. Are you still here? Make sure you check out these as well.